So, the speech, I'd like to welcome Greg Edmonds tonight with a speech titled Blood of a Nation. Blood of a Nation, Greg Edmonds.
Well, what an interesting evening we've had this evening, going back in time. Well, I want you to do exactly that, to 1852. Morris, 1852. It was a pastoral lease, basically. It was a heathland scrub. There were people here trying to raise sheep, etc., horses and what have you. But that's not the point. The point is, when we look at our lives today, and we compare our lives to what it was like in 1852 in Morris, just think about the difficulties. And you wanted to send a message to Kathy to say, I'm sorry, but I can't attend your son's wedding. Now, you live in Morris, which is 20k from Melbourne CBD. Kathy lives in Melbourne, 20k away. What do? Well, you could jump on a horse. It would be at least a solid 12 hours in a saddle to ride, deliver the message and ride back. You could write a personal letter, and then you would wait for the postman to come past with his cart or his horse to pick it up. And then, at least 5, 6, even up to 10 days for a letter to be delivered from Morris to Melbourne CBD. Communication. What an impact it has on our lives. It wasn't until 1853 that the telegraph was first installed in Australia between Melbourne and Williamstown. It was 20 years later before we were connected to the world via a telegraph line from Adelaide to Darwin, on to Indonesia, Singapore and then the rest of the world. The 1930s, when the legendary Donald Bradman first set foot on English soil as a part of an Australian team and they won the Ashes, people were glued to their wireless sets. Those are radios for you young people. They were glued to their wireless sets in Australia, listening to every tap of the ball, whack of the ball hitting the gloves, every boundary, every six that was hit. It was all coming through the telegraph. And the person on the ABC wireless was reading it out and tapping the desk with his pencil every time Donald Bradman hit the ball. It wasn't until 1993 that Australia finally ceased its telegraph. 1993. It's amazing, isn't it? Communication. If you can put yourself back in that time, you don't even have to go that far back. Go back 50 years. I'm 54 years old. I can still remember our first telephone. You had to pick it up and talk to an operator. Tell her what number you wanted, whether it was 3, 4, maybe 10 or 12, and they would connect you to the person that you wanted. If you lived in other parts of town, you may have been on a party line, so you could pick it up and hear somebody else already having a conversation. How far have we come? In my working environment, just in the last 30 years in work, I've seen the demise of the teletext, the introduction of the fax. I had one of the first car phones installed in my car because I was a computer engineer and I did after hours work. The first mobile phone in Canberra, which actually was like a car phone, only it was on a brick this size, which was the battery. And you're running around like this. No wonder I got a sore disc. But the change in communication technology that's come over us in the last few years. Today, information fuels commerce, It rules our personal lives. It rules our relationships. And if you haven't already got a Facebook page, then you probably should get one and you'll find out what I mean. Right? So it's a powerful, powerful thing, information. And the internet is the weapon that wields that power. And if you don't believe me, look at WikiLeaks. How many politicians have been humbled by WikiLeaks? There was Egypt, the government toppled by Facebook. Nick Riewoldt derobed by Facebook. Powerful, powerful stuff. So where does this take? Look, no matter what your technical capability, right, the internet is important in your lives today. But what does the future hold? Well, it's the National Broadband Network, of course. Minister Stephen Conroy calls it the infrastructure of the future, nation-building infrastructure. Tony Abbott calls it a gross waste of public money, a technology that will be outstripped in 10 years. But hey, he wears budgie smugglers, what can you say? But what is the National Broadband Network? It's really misunderstood. I want you to imagine a riverbed going, its roots into the earth, spread wide and deep. That's the input, gathering the nutrients. Its trunk and its branches, moving that information, that life and sustenance, out to the tender shoots, the leaves, which are the streets and the homes. That's what the National Broadband Network is. It's not about wireless. It's not about your phone or your iPad. It's about an infrastructure to move information around the country. As a tree moves sap through its infrastructure, the difference that broadband network will make into the future is this. As a tree grows bigger, it gets harder and harder to move the sap out to the points where the action's taking place, to the leaves, the branches, where the photosynthesis is happening. What happens? Growth slows, branches die. That's what will happen to Australia's economy. If we don't have an infrastructure that will be able to handle the growth in data and information flow that's going to come our way in the next 50 years. So, whether you know anything about it or not, think of it this way. Will a copper wire infrastructure be able to handle an information flow that's going to have a quantum leap in terms of the amount coming through? Yes, it does, mate.